People who come into the space tend to generally be surprised by how it can be what it is. The experience of approaching the building, and it looks just like a farm building in the landscape, like any other industrial shed. And then you come into the courtyard and there's this real surprise, this real sense of place. My name is Joseph Kohlmeier. I'm a teacher, designer, and artist. I'm associate professor at an art school where I teach history and theory. I also am the director of an experimental choral ensemble called Musark. We're here on the Isle of Wight in the Old Byre, which is my house where I live and which I occasionally share with artists who come and work here, and which is the product of a fantastic collaboration with an architect called Johnny Botsford. I had a very concrete interest in architecture that I developed somewhere in my late 20s, early 30s. I was a graphic designer at the time. We were working for an architecture school. We started to design all their website and their logo, and one day I received a letter from one of the professors, very influential person for me, the late Bob Harbison, who said, yeah, we're starting this new MA in architectural history, theory and interpretation. And I replied and said, great, send me some images, send me some text. We'll make this poster for you. And so he sent the text and I read it and I replied, this is great, we can work with that, and can I come for an interview? So I started to study architectural history. I met lots of architects, fellow students, but also teachers. I had met Johnny Botsford, the architect of this house, back then. This was many, many years ago now. So we've been working together as a team for a very long time. And so I know how Johnny approaches architecture. Johnny's approach is very, very much about finding a place, finding its context, getting to know the environment and the people that are involved as so-called stakeholders. That's what really interests me about the creative process, full stop. And because I knew Johnny works that way, I thought he was the right person for this project, because that's how I wanted this particular building and project to evolve. So I was on the island. I was looking for a place to buy or maybe a plot to build on, but with no specific agenda. And I saw some images of these barns and the farm, and I told the children, just like, I'll be back in an hour. I got into the car and I drove here. The doors were open and I could look into the courtyard and I could see the interior space, the courtyard space, and I looked around and I thought, like, this is so beautiful. There's something really wonderful about this place. I don't know what it is. It is, I think, in fact, the courtyard typology, the way all these buildings met each other. They're all from different centuries. It all formed this extraordinary space. I approached Johnny and I showed him the photographs that I took at the time and asked him to design the house with me. It's always a challenge to connect all the new things. There's always difficult junctures. And structurally, of course, the barns were very old. And the 19th century barn where I now work and sleep needed some form of underpinning, but we couldn't access the wall from the street. So we built a bench that literally holds the wall up, that has now become part of the design, so to speak. Actually, so many of the things that you see have emerged out of pragmatic decisions, and that's what's beautiful about them. It was just what had to be done in order to make the place work and for it to stand up, and then that becomes part of the character and fabric of the building. What makes this project fundamentally different from other barn conversions is that the approach has been turned inside out. So traditionally, you would have an old farm building, a brick building, you'd clean up and fix the facade, you'd put new doors, windows in, etc. And then you would insulate the building on the inside. You would probably add plasterboard and paint it and put a floor in. This building is the other way around. So the interior was left as it is, and the outside was covered. The outside was insulated and then covered with corrugated cement board. The way it presents itself to the landscape has changed, although it looks quite anonymous, just like any other barn building. But it is the interior where all the histories and the purpose of the building, that's what's been preserved. So it's completely the other way around. I think like a palimpsest, like a stone tablet into which you engrave words and then you rub it down again and you do it over and over and over again and you get this surface that has in it all the histories that have been written on it. This is what's happening here. It is not just about creating a wall or a surface to hang a picture on or to put your sofa against, but it is about exposing different stories or different levels of the history of this building and leaving them as they are. And I think that's what you see. It's not a sort of pastiche or style, or that's not what it's about. It's just like, this is what it is. This building used to be a place of work, and it still is a place of work. In my practice as a teacher, as an artist, as a designer, everything I do has both a private, individual aspect and a public side. The library in the other building, for many years, used to be in a teaching space at the university, and it was loved as a teaching space by my colleagues. It had someone's private possessions, but they were also public possessions. Books are like something that you look after. It's not really something you own, I feel, and libraries certainly aren't. And so the story of this library you can transpose onto the rest of the building in a way that this is a private home, but at the same time there is a public aspect to it. Once things are public, there is work in them, if you see what I'm saying. Because work is about how you are with other people, how you are in the world, in the city, and so on. So much, I think, about the place emerged as a byproduct, and it's very hard to put your finger on it. Like, why is it such a success? It's completely ungeneric. I think that's what it is. It's obvious that these walls feel like they have a history. That means you are surrounded by something that is speaking to you. It's not neutral. I think that is what makes it so special and beautiful.